Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Doctor podcast. This week is me sharing my story with a chap called David Lamb. He kindly invited me to go onto his podcast to talk about my stuff in a little bit more detail, more about the origin and the risk and all the rest of it. So I accepted. This has been out on his podcast for a little while, but I thought it's about time that I shared it with my audience now. I do hope you enjoy it. There is something that's gone on over the past few months, and that is that I've got really quite sick of professionals, particularly health professionals, that have been lured in by false claims of all sorts of stuff, passive income, sourced properties. We'll do all the sourcing for you. You don't need to do anything. And people are paying through the nose for this, only to get really disappointed when they actually get the particulars through, but they've signed up and they've paid their money and they can't get a refund. So they are almost obliged to then go through with buying assets which really are no good. In the northern vocabulary, you would say that they are turds rolled in glitter. So as they used to say where I'm from, you can't shine shite, but you can roll it in glitter. And that is what a lot of these people are offering to trusting professionals who essentially just want someone with expertise to help them out. And they're getting really let down, and it's really disappointing. I must have had, I couldn't put a number on it, but I get one a week. That's how bad it is. And so I've decided to do something about it. So keep an eye on my social media. You will see an announcement coming out about what I'm going to do about it. And essentially it's about giving professionals, beginning with health professionals, the tools to be able to see through the blaggers before they get caught by the blaggers in the first place. There's a lot of it about. The property world is absolutely full of it. And I see so many people falling for it and get so many people asking for help on how to get away from the stuff that they've already signed up for, that I would much rather help before they get to that point. Anyway, keep your eyes peeled for that. For now though, please enjoy a conversation with David, good fella from Teesside, where I go into a lot more detail about all the stuff that we do and how it all started. Hope you enjoy. See you later.
Today, we're going back to brick with Andrew Threadgold, a former NHS GP who transitioned from medicine into acquiring and scaling real UK businesses and property. Andrew now operates multiple companies, employs over 50 people and deploys capital into real assets alongside private investors. This is going to be a conversation about real, genuine business acquisition, operational improvement, and building long-term value through property and business. I think I covered everything there, Andrew. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a very, very well-written
Mate,
introduction.
yeah.
Well done.
It did take me a while, but I didn't want to miss anything. I'm really looking forward to this because you're going to be a cracking guest regardless for the listeners. But from a selfish perspective, I'm going through a big acquisition drive at the moment in my business. So yeah, there's a few questions in here.
Wicked.
That are solely for me.
Great stuff.
But first of all, mate, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I've been following you for quite a while now. I don't mean physically, I mean online. Of course. But it's nice to meet you in the flesh finally. So, as with every guest, mate, it's back to brick. So we're going to go right back to the start and ask, first question is always, who's Andrew and where did life begin?
Okay. I always thought I was dropped on the lino in the kitchen.
I genuinely was, actually.
Yeah, well, yeah. I always thought I was until about a month ago when my mum told me I wasn't dropped on the lino in the kitchen. It was actually in the bedroom on the bed sheets. It was a home birth in a place called Spring Head in Oldham / Saddleworth.
All right.
Mum was a seamstress. Dad was waif, stray, vagabond, a bit of a wrong 'un. A lot of a wrong 'un. And then I ended up on a council estate near Manchester, and it wasn't the worst council estate in the world, but it wasn't the best, you know what I mean? And the only people that seemed to get out of that place were either the ones that managed to get to uni or the ones that got banged up for doing drugs. And so the teachers always said, he's got half a brain. And my dad sat me down one day and basically read the right act, stop hanging around with them, start doing the right thing, and see where it goes. And originally I was going to be a vet because my dad's mate was a vet, and as with everybody with my dad's mate, the vet, got struck off for being a real dodgy vet, like operating on animals, but he was a bit of a pisshead.
Right.
So he probably wasn't feeling up to operating on these particular days. So he would make an incision into an animal and sew it back up, and tell the owner of the animal that they'd had surgery, and then the animal would die from what it was going in for its operation for. And eventually the guy got caught, and he turned up at the vet's hearing with a piece that he took out of a previous animal and said, look, I did operate on the animal. And they go, well, no, we did a post-mortem and you're lying. So he got struck off. But that tells you the kind of the people that I grew up around.
Yeah.
And so I thought, that's probably not the best way and best role model for me. So I was quite aware at the time. So I did have half a brain, got to medical school, went to Barts in London, really loved it. And I think my life started when I was down there. I didn't have the best childhood, but when I got to London, it was quite cool. I had a couple of years out doing various bits and bobs in and around music and stuff like that, and sports science and sports medicine. And then I qualified in London, and I moved to Stockton to be a surgeon at North East Hospital. And I'm a big United fan, massive Man United fan. And my favourite ever player was Brian Robson.
Right.
So when Brian Robson left United and went to Borough to be player manager, I started following Middlesbrough. Right. So it was kind of a fait accompli that I ended up coming to Teesside, because I always liked the Borough, do you know what I mean? And I thought, little Janino and Ravanelli and all that.
Good times.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I got there and I wandered around Stockton High Street and I thought, what have I come here for? Yeah. But it was all right. So I was a surgeon for a while, a urologist. So yeah, I saw a lot of arseholes.
Today's no different.
Today's no different. Yeah, and then the patients, saw them as well. And then I was all set for being a career urologist. I was a few years away from being a urology consultant, and the government changed the way medical training was done, and they made us all reapply for our jobs again. Typical government shenanigans. Not one of us that was on this path got an interview for our jobs that we were already in, and I ended up moving into general practice. After 6 months, that whole thing collapsed and they offered us our jobs back, and I thought, fuck that for a game of soldiers. You think I'm going back to that? So I carried on.
Carry on.
As a GP. I was a GP in Redcar, a partner of practice in Redcar, and then I moved to Middlesbrough. I was a partner of practice in Middlesbrough with the devious spin bowler that we've just talked about before we came on as a practice manager. And along the way, I don't know how much you want to get into it, but I got investigated by the GMC for doing a favour for another doctor, and it was that made me think, first of all, I had the rug pulled from under me when I was trying to be a surgeon, and then second of all, I've got colleagues trying to be clever for their own particular reasons that I could have ended up losing my career over. It was really bad. Lost 3 stone in weight, 18 months of investigation. It was horrendous. And I thought, this medicine game's not for someone like me. I'm not that kind of person that deals with this shit.
Yeah.
So it was that point, roughly 2012, that set me on the road to where I am now.
Right. Okay. Well, my next question was, what was that pivot point? But you've just told me there, so it sounds like a horrendous time, especially if you're just doing someone a bloody favour. But anyway, we won't go into that today. But so you had that negative point in your life, but why the pivot into entrepreneurship? You could have gone in different directions. You could have gone in a lot more negative directions, to be fair, having the stress that you'd been through. So what forced you towards entrepreneurship?
I've always been like that. My first, it's a bit of a cliche, but, selling things when you're at school, washing cars, 15 hours a day when you're a kid in the summer for money, all that stuff. And then I spent quite a lot of time around the music industry at medical school. And then when I qualified, I had a business where I subcontracted to a company that ran concerts, events. And I was there as the doctor to the artist.
Right.
So because I had no problem speaking to these people. A lot of people get starstruck, but I've been around them. Do you know what I mean? So we were first of all subcontracted to do crowd work, to look after, if someone gets ill in the crowd, faints or whatever, there's the medical tent. Mm-hmm. And I was at the Monsters of Rock Festival in Donington, and Guns N' Roses were playing. And at the same day, the Silverstone Grand Prix was on. And Axl Rose had been at the Silverstone Grand Prix, had kicked a champagne bucket and hurt his toe, got in his helicopter, came back to the Donington racetrack backstage, and he had he had a poorly toe, right? So they asked me to go and look at Axl Rose. So I went and put an injection in Axl Rose's toe so he could perform. Crazy.
No pressure.
Yeah, well, it's just another toe, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was the most effeminate person you've ever...
Was he?
Yeah, honestly,
right.
You think this like rock star.
Yeah, he looks hard as nails.
Yeah, but he's absolutely... he was feminine. Like, he was non-binary before it became a thing. I've got to be careful what I say.
Yeah.
But an interesting bloke, let's put it like that.
Yeah.
He didn't have the affect that I thought somebody like him would have. Anyway, so we got on... They liked my approach, and then the next thing I get asked to go and look after Madonna. So then I was on the Confessions tour with Madonna.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, it was Aerosmith. And so then what happened was the company that I subcontracted to brought their doctors in-house. And at the time, my surgical career was kind of taking off. So I didn't want to go and work full-time for that. I wanted a career as a surgeon. So I kind of knocked that on the head. Mm-hmm. But there was always a thing running parallel.
Yeah.
And then when I came into general practice with Steve, the practice manager, Steve and I coerced our other partners into building a group of practices. Right. So we started acquiring practices and built them into a group. And then I left when my property stuff was getting to the point where it was all encompassing. That's when I left them to it.
Right. Why did you leave them then? Did you building up that group? Did you enjoy it? Was it? Did you feel like you were part of a sort of consortium and you wanted to do your own thing?
No, it was because of what happened to me with the GMC investigation, and I lost. So this is from somebody that I would have sacrificed myself at the altar of the NHS when I went into medicine. I was in it for the other people, really. And don't get me wrong, medicine did get me out of where I came from, right? So it served its purpose. And I did 20 years, so I served my time. But that thing, so basically I did a form for somebody in a funeral director's, and the other doctor, and there was a fee attached to it. It was a cremation form. There was a fee attached to it, which I waived. But the other doctor thought I was nicking his 40 quid. And told the GMC that Dr. Threadgold's doing cremation forms without due process. Right. And obviously with Harold Chipman and all the rest of it, the GMC took that really seriously and came down on me like a ton of bricks. And in the end, nothing actually happened, apart from I lost 3 stone in weight and they lost somebody that was hell-bent on being the best doctor they could be. But it really soured me against the profession. And then so eventually I did a load of things, stockbroking and ran a long short hedge portfolio of my own for a while, realised that was just as much time for money as medicine was. Ended up in property started. And it's a real funny thing, and you probably noticed it yourself, but when you start something, everyone's rooting for you. Like, oh, look at Andrew with his little buy-to-let. Go on, Andrew. Yeah. And then you do a little bit more and they start getting a bit, and then there becomes a point where you're achieving more than they are comfortable with themselves. And they think, oh, I couldn't do that. And then they start turning. And then in the end, when I was leaving, my partners, not Steve, my partners were starting to set traps for me, trying to get patients to complain against me, or because they thought my head was elsewhere, and it was just that crabs in bucket mentality.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I also trained a lot of junior doctors, and one of I could have left a long time before I did, but the only reason I stayed was because I felt I had some life experience to give to the junior doctors that were training to be GPs that they wouldn't get from anybody else, because I'd been through the ringer and all the rest of it. So that's what kept me anchored. And then it just got so much that, and when I left, we had one acquisition in process, and the acquisition was slated to complete on the 19th of May 2024, and I knew I couldn't, I'm just buying a business here. I can't keep being a doctor at the same time.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the thing that broke the camel's back, really.
Just to touch on that attitude that you talk about, and I completely agree with you. I think people want you to do well, but just not as well as them.
Yeah.
In general, is that a British thing? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it? Yeah, because I think it is as well.
Yeah.
Because whenever I travel, the US is very, and Australia's quite similar actually. Everyone's rooting for each other regardless of how well they do. Everyone seems to be pro progression of other people. And have you noticed that attitude continue as you've gone through?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, yeah. When you get around people that nobody further ahead than you ever criticises you. No. They will never, put you down. It's always people further behind that haven't achieved or fulfilled the potential that are the ones that criticise.
They try to let themselves off the hook, aren't they?
Yeah. And I think you're right. You see it in America, if someone's driving around in a nice car, they'll ask, how did you get that?
Exactly.
They won't be like, oh, wanker. They'll be...
It's inspirational.
Yeah, exactly that. And you see it in sports all the time. Yeah. Anthony Joshua, it was the biggest thing ever when he was starting. And as soon as he became a superstar, everyone thinks he's a knob. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the British way.
Sad, isn't it?
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Really. It's small-minded, scarcity-driven. Yeah. But when you get into circles where people are doing decent stuff, there's none of that.
No, there's not.
So the company you keep really matters.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, proximity is everything. I'm part of a group that I go to in London once a month, and it's exactly that. Everyone's more advanced than I am, really. I don't mind admitting it. But they're all rooting for me, and nobody keeps the cards close to the chest. Everyone's giving out free information, trying to help everyone else. Just different levels, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Conversations are different.
100%. Yeah. You've got to be careful who you spend your time with. So, was there anything in that medical journey then that any skills that are of use to you in your business and property life? Is there anything that you've taken from it?
Absolutely, yeah. And probably general practice was probably the best medical specialty in order to transition into other things. So most people don't realise that a GP surgery is a small business. They have one customer, which is the NHS. That contract is their revenue, and out of that they've got the wages to pay, the overheads and all the rest of it, and then whatever's left is what gets split as a profit between the partners to take.
Right.
If you bring more staff in or whatever, or you don't do well enough on certain targets, you get less revenue and you earn less yourself.
Right.
So there's a lot of risk. Payments don't come through from the NHS, believe it or not. They don't come through on time. They're not, they might say you get them quarterly. There might be a delay, so you got to find the money from somewhere to pay your staff.
Yeah.
So all that behaviour of running a business, looking at balance sheets, managing cash flow, all that is in general practice if you look for it. Right. Most doctors and all of my partners, bar one, every practice I've ever worked at, never wanted to know about it, which is why when I said at the beginning we had to coerce the others, it's because they only want to see the patients. Nobody gives a shit about what's happening in the numbers. And in medicine, certainly in the old days, there's a lot of people who do it for free. Like there is a lot of doctors that look at you as if, why are you a capitalist, kind of, you know what I mean? And they're very socialist, and that's just where their values are.
I guess it's going to attract that type of person.
It does, yeah, for sure it does. But I was always, I loved my patients, don't get me wrong, but I was always, how can we best, maximise profitability. You know, do we really need that 8th nurse to do, you know, just for holiday cover, bringing them on full time? You know, I would question things and look at other sources of revenue. So something else that I did within the group was I set up what's called an occupational medicine business, bolted on, which was a private thing. So if you get injured at work and they want to know how long you'll be off for or what they can do to support you to go back to work, they would send the patients to me, or I would go into a business and like a chromium plant in Birmingham, and I'd go and look round and say, well, why do they all look like Daniela Westbrook? Well, it's because they're all leaning over the vats of chromium and it's burning the nasal septums out. Okay. You know, stuff like that. And so I was always like that, and those skills transition quite nicely into running businesses.
And I'm sure your colleagues that your other GPs that you were working with didn't frown when you were starting to bring more revenue.
No, of course. But I tell you what, they did frown at. They frowned at, and they really didn't like the fact that I was trying to start a occupational medicine business, and for the first month, they thought I was just off tossing it off. Instead, even though they knew I was going to meet in that business, I was going to meet in that site, and all the rest of it. You know, I would travel the country meeting people to start getting the contacts to get the business in, and they thought, well, I'm not seeing patients, so wasting my time.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever change that type of attitude, will you? Unfortunately, but okay. So, what was the first step into business, or was it property? Did you go from there into property, or did you go and acquire a business?
Well, I didn't realise the skills that I'd acquired by building the group of practices, but property was the real entrepreneurial gateway, for want of a better phrase. I started off with a tiny little house in Darlington, Hercules Street. Bought it for 42,000. Got a loan off my father-in-law to buy it, because at the time I had I'm a shit kicker from a council estate, right? I didn't know anything about money, so I had a good job, big house, big mortgage, cars on finance, holidays around the world. Not taught
anything otherwise, are we?
No, you know, so I didn't have a pot to piss. It was fur coat and no knickers. That was it.
I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah, but that's all I knew. Because I'd never had any money as a kid, you know. It was always everybody else had the money. So and I worked really hard. So, like, no joke, 100 hours a week that was my normal working week. So I would do 70 hours in the practice, and I would do 30 hours working in the out-of-hours service. So, and so I earned decent money. That's the only way you can earn decent money. Medicine is time for money. No two ways about it. So the beauty of time for money is the more time you put in, the more money you get. And a lot of people, that doesn't it's an interesting point that a lot of people miss with time for money jobs. How can I get more money? I need to do something else. No, just work harder. If it's an hourly rate.
Certainly when you're first getting started, that's always the answer. I worked a stupid amount of days offshore just to get started, Yeah. And that was the only option I had. More time for more money.
Yeah. And it can be a good lever to get going. Just work harder.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't want to hear that.
No, of course they don't.
So it's property. I had nothing. Father-in-law lent me some money. Bought this house. I did the refurb myself, all of it, because I wanted to learn how much a bag of plaster cost, how long it took to do X, Y, and Z. Refurbed it myself, apart from the rewire. In it for 15 grand, so I'm all in for 57-ish. Refinanced out at 75 grand, so I got 51 back out there or thereabouts. So I left about 4 or 5 grand in it.
Brilliant.
Cash flowed 300 or so quid all in after the bills and everything. And I thought, it works, this property thing. It actually does work. But fucking hell, how many of these am I going to need? That's
the only problem.
Yeah.
Just on that, Andrew, did you know what you were doing at that time? Was BRR even a thing? How did you know to refurb it and refinance it? Had you learnt somewhere? Or?
Yeah, YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I'm not self-taught. Like, I've not done any real training. I tell a lie. I did one person's training in COVID. But I'm not one of these that goes to webinars anonymous.
No.
You know what I mean? Every training course under the sun and treats it as a spectator.
And never buys a property.
Exactly. I'm not one of them.
No.
I'd watched some YouTube videos, thought, I'll give it a go. And I'm very much that. I am very much action first and then figure it out later.
Yeah, me too, yeah. So you got that first property, done very well out of it. Like you said, you've just had that light bulb moment, but you've also had the realisation that it's going to take a lot of these baby steps to get where you want to be. So where did you go from there?
So I realised that need a lot of them little houses to get anywhere, and I'd done a lot of reading around creative strategies and stuff. So because I was doing that refurb myself, it took a long time. So when I talk about this at events and I put this little spreadsheet up about the basic numbers, I say, the astute amongst you will pull me up and say there's no solicitor's fees on there, and I've not mentioned how long it's took or the time cost, because that was significant. So I spent far too long doing that job on my own, and another property came up in Redcar, 2 flats on 1 title, and it had been on the market for about 120 grand. And I've been watching it on Rightmove and nothing. And I thought, why is this not selling? It was 2 flats that were both fucked, and they were both empty, but it was perfect. Yeah, I was like, why is this not buying? So I looked it up and I found out who the seller was. So I did a bit of Googling, and it's public record, so I'll talk about it. So there was on New Common Terrace. Do you know Redcar?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. On New Common Terrace, there's there used to be a load of kind of bedsits.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. I think they're still there.
Yeah,
a lot of them, yeah.
And guest houses along that way. And this particular guy had a lot of those. And one day, a couple spent the night in the guest house, looked up in the morning laying in bed and saw a camera in the bedroom. Phoned the police. Police came, traced the wiring back to this guy's house, and he had stacks and stacks of DVDs of recordings of people that had been in his guest house, and he got put away for it.
I bet he did, yeah.
And this particular place that we bought was one of his, and nobody would buy it. And we went down the back alley when we were looking around the place, there's nonce sprayed across the back walls and all the rest of it. So obviously everybody knew.
Yeah.
But me not being from Redcar, particularly, obviously I worked in Redcar for years, but I didn't know the score. But I thought, I don't give a shit.
Even if you did know, it's still a good property, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just because I'm sure a lot of the properties that I own have got. I don't know. I don't know the history of them. You don't know what's gone on in there, do you? But I don't want to know either.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a property purchase at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, and so for me, it made no difference.
Yeah.
But it obviously made a difference to the good people at Redcar.
Create an opportunity for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was the guy's son that was selling it. So I basically found him, went and spoke to him and said, look, I really like this. And I know it's not selling. We both know why it's not selling. I was about to give you 75 grand for it. Bit of chat. Yeah, okay, fine. I said, okay. Trouble is, all my money's tied up in this house in Darlow that I'm doing. So why don't we do an exchange now with 5 grand down? Complete when I've finished the renovation on it. I'll refinance it at a higher value. You'll get the rest of the 75 grand. And then obviously it's mine. I just need to exchange and you give me the keys to get in. And he went, yeah, fine. So
he didn't have any other options.
Didn't really have another option. Yeah. So we did it. It refinanced out at over 200 grand.
Oh, wow.
And it's been 2 fantastic flats that we've had. And since the first one, up until 2023, 24-ish, all I did was service accommodation after that. So when we first started, I realised, and I'd kind of heard what was going on Tees Works before it started, because all the patients that I used to see in Redcar, they would come in and say, we've had such and such buddy in our taxi going to Tees Works. So they're all telling us about what's going on. So I'd clocked something was happening and there was work coming before it got announced that it was going to be it was going to be Tees Works. It was just the old Steelworks at the time. So I thought, something's going on in Redcar. So I looked at the market, and at the time when we started, 2019, 2020, something there or thereabouts, the standard was average at best. Yeah. Let's put it like that. And so it really wasn't hard to be the best. And so that was kind of the attitude we took from then on. So wherever we go, we try and be 10% better than the next best. Yeah. And if you treat it like a hospitality business rather than a property strategy, which is the thing that really pisses me off about people getting into serviced accommodation.
Couldn't be further from the truth, could it?
It's not a property strategy, it's a hospitality
trading
business.
business.
It is. And if you treat it like a proper hospitality business and do the things that people do in hospitality businesses, you will be in the top
Fully
quartile.
agree with that. Yeah.
And that was, so then we've expanded that. God knows how many we've got. Now we've got about 100 and odd, just over 100 bedrooms across the northeast, across the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
And it was...
Have you stuck to service accommodation then?
No, not now. I never wanted to be a landlord after the first one, but my business partner Philip can't help himself. So I've got more buy-to-lets than I ever thought I could possibly.
Well, I love buy-to-lets, so I think that's a good thing. But
Yeah.
I'm sure when you look back in 5 or 10 years,
man,
you'll be glad of it.
Yeah, and to his credit, I can't stop him anyway. So we're just collecting them now.
Yeah,
but,
it's not a bad thing to collect. There's a lot worse things you can collect.
Yeah,
isn't there?
yeah, for sure, like bad habits. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So just on Redcar, because obviously Tees Works is huge. The construction phase is going to be huge, but then the operational phases are going to be huge as well. Because I used to work at those Redcar Steelworks for years.
Did you?
For 7 years. Yeah, I loved it. So I've always got an affinity for Redcar. It seems to be just getting going now, would you say, the construction phase? It seems to be, because we do service accommodation.
Right.
And all anybody's asking me for is Redcar.
Yeah.
We've got people staying in service accommodation in Stockton, Hartlepool, and then commuting to Redcar.
Yeah.
So it shows there's not enough.
Yeah.
So I think the future's really, really good for Redcar. I mean, when the steelworks closed, it was a ghost town. It was hot. It was awful. But now when I go through the town, because we manage quite a bit of property in Redcar, but now when I go through the town, feels better. It's not pumping by any means, but it feels more vibrant. There's more going on. There's less empty shops. So hopefully onwards and upwards for that.
I think so.
Town.
Yeah, I think so. It's I mean, we've been busy for years. Like we have been full for like it's crackers. It's like shooting fish in a barrel sometimes in Redcar. And like a lot of so I went on the Tees Works site tour last year, and a lot of the foundations that have been put in place, I recognise because the guys that were staying in our places for long term were saying, "Oh, we're working on that particular wall at such a site." And then when we got on to have a look round, there's what they were working on.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of stuff going into the ground before you can see any of the construction.
Yeah, of course.
We've had Sparkies at from the CR Work plant in for 2 years. Yeah, man, it's cracking place.
Yeah, if you look after people, which you clearly are, otherwise they wouldn't be staying that long. But if you look after people, contractors, and tailor it, you know, it doesn't have to be 5-star hotel standard, but nice, clean, good standard. Just look after your people. They'll keep coming back, won't they? You know, if you get those long bookings with SA, the cash flow is incredible, isn't it? It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. I always say there's unless you do it yourself, there's 3 people that make money in service accommodation. It's Airbnb and Booking.com or the online travel agents.
Yeah.
It's the cleaners and it's the management companies.
Yeah.
Nobody else makes money out of service accommodation. So if you've got I don't know what your business is with SA, but
it's a very small part of my business. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But for most people, I'll phrase it like this, for most people that want to just buy a property and hand it to a company to manage for them, most of those people will get a similar amount than they would if that property was a buy-to-let that they manage themselves, because the fees that are taken by the whole interested parties are vast. But by doing it ourselves in our own way, and actually once you get good at it, it's really quite simple to systemize and automate.
Yeah.
If
a lot of good tech around service.
Yeah, for sure. And if you can keep that margin in house, which is what every business is about.
Of course it is.
Eliminate margin erosion, if you want to use a technical phrase. It makes all the difference.
For sure. So do you have your own team of cleaners and admin staff, for instance?
Yeah. We've been through cleaners are
critical, aren't they?
Yeah, there's two you'll know. There's 2 things in service accommodation. They've got to be spotless and they've got to have comfy beds. If you don't have them 2, you're not getting anywhere because your reviews will be fucked.
Yeah.
So we went through cleaners. Honestly, the cleaners are the hardest thing to get.
Yeah, they're just so critical, aren't they? If they're having a bad day or they haven't slept or they make the smallest mistakes, like you say, your reviews are knackered.
Yeah, we ended up with one of my investors actually said to me, "I've got this great cleaner who cleans our surgery and cleans my house. Would you like to meet her? Because she's really you know, she really wants to do something with her life. She's really motivated. And at the time, we had a cleaner that was based in Skelton, and we didn't like him. He was on his 5th last chance. Do you know what I mean? But trying to find somebody better was really tough. And so I met her at Starbucks at Teesside Industrial Estate, and she's Polish. She was really prim and proper, really quite nervous. And I thought, I like something about you. The energy is great, you know. So I said, right, you can have the Redcar ones to start with and see how you get on. Honestly, she's fucking dynamite. She is absolutely the bollocks. And then as we've grown, and then as we've took on more units and took the hotel on and stuff, she's grown with us. So it's really nice to see that she's gone from a single-hander to running a squad. She must have 30, 40 cleaners for her now. Brilliant. But the standards remain. We've got a little WhatsApp chat with her. If she goes into a house and she sees the curtain pull looks like it's coming out slightly, they've tugged on the curtain, she'll get it fixed before we even know about it.
Brilliant.
You know, she treats our properties like they're her own. And every time we add a new one to the thing, she comes round and cleans it after the lads have finished the build works. She'll come round and clean it and put everything the way she wants it, ready for us to get it staged and out.
Brilliant.
She's fab.
Yeah, so the rare finds people like that, but when you do, you've got to wrap them in cotton wool, haven't you?
Yeah. My wife absolutely loves it a bit.
I bet she does, yeah. Bet she does. So on to that, Andrew. What was the first business that you acquired? Because I know you're big on acquisition these days. How did that happen?
First business I acquired was Halo Physiotherapy in Kenilworth, which is in Warwickshire. Very posh part of the Midlands, very Middle England, very mothers' meetings. And so that came about. So I spent 2 years trying to find a business to buy, and I got so close and wasted tens of thousands of pounds on businesses that didn't happen for all sorts of reasons.
You spent the money on due diligence and solicitors, etc.
Which you have to.
Of course you do, yeah.
And so I approached it strategically because I wanted businesses that were asset heavy, because if they've got assets, you can leverage against them and your input is minimised. So I spent 2 years looking at warehouses and haulage companies. And I got to heads of terms 4 times across different businesses. Not one of them went across the line for all sorts of different stories that I can go into if you want. But in the end, I thought, I'm going to change tack here. I really don't want to do... I don't want to get a business where if somebody rings in sick, it turns into a job for me.
Yeah.
So I thought, what is in healthcare, which is clearly my comfort zone, because I don't know a great deal about haulage, although I knew more at the end than I did at the start. So healthcare. So I thought physiotherapy. So I reached out to quite a lot of physiotherapy companies and podiatry companies and all sorts of things, and got on well with the owners of Halo, 2 fabulous ladies, Rachel and Michelle, who had took it from single-handed to a reasonable sized business, but they'd got to the point where they were having to either withdraw from seeing patients to run it, or they had to hand it on to somebody else because they'd reached the ceiling, really. And they didn't necessarily have the cash to invest to get it any bigger and all the rest of it. So we got on really well, ended up buying that one. Halo,
did you keep them in-house?
Kept them in-house, which is an interesting... When the owners of the business, formally, the founders of the business are still working on it, has its positives and negatives.
I've been through it, yeah. Very much, I agree.
Yeah. But to be fair to them, they have really tried not to be interfering. But this is really interesting about the mentality in the corporate world versus the NHS world. So in our security firm, for example, if there's no new leads coming in, no new jobs to do, they know, the people in that business know, that they may not get paid. In a healthcare business, even though it's private, they think, oh, there's nobody in my diary for the next hour, I'll put my feet up.
Yeah.
they don't think, oh, fuck, I should get on the phone and ring somebody and see. And so the mentality is very, very different.
But that's quite a frustrating thing to deal
It's
with.
incredibly... But I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of lessons that I've learned across the full patch, the full piece of acquisition. So yeah, it has been interesting, but the physio was the first one.
So have you been able, in that physio business, have you been able to then go in and then grow that business as they would have wanted to?
Yes, there's been a lot of resistance. So when you buy a business, if you watch YouTube and you listen to the furus that talk about buying business, buy a business with no money down and, add this to your personal income and you'll be on a private jet with me and my turkey teeth in no time.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, I do, yeah.
If you listen to those people, you'll think it's a piece of piss.
Yeah.
But what they don't tell you, conveniently, is that when you buy a business that's 20 years old, that's plateaued, you've got staff in there that are comfortable, and they want an easy life. You don't buy a business to keep it plateaued. What's the point? You buy a business to grow it. So when you go in and try and grow it, it's immediately a culture shock for the people that are there. And if you buy a business like I do, where I don't live in Kenilworth, and I don't live in Norwich where my security business is, so I'm up here. So I'm not in it every day by design.
Yeah.
So if you're not in it every day, you've got to be able to communicate and engage those people to do what you want them to do in terms of growing the business. And how do you do it? Motivate them by, trying to get them on board with the vision, financial rewards, better packages, all the rest of it. But in Middle England, in middle class Middle England, they're really quite comfortable, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You mean after work I should go and see somebody and talk about something else? Oh, I've little Johnny might have his Pilates class to go to.
Yeah.
I'm being very mean, but that's the there's an inbuilt resistance in any business. It wasn't just Halo. Any business you buy that's plateaued, there's an inbuilt resistance to change.
Yeah. 100%.
And if I could give one learning point across buying businesses, that is, if you can't change the people, you have to change the people. So our security company, we got rid of every member of staff except 2 engineers and re-employed them with our own team.
Oh, wow.
It's just what you've got to do. Physio business, we've had a lot of staff that we've had to let go. And we're now getting a fantastic team in that's young, hungry, wants to grow, got that about them. Do you know what I mean?
A drive.
Bit of drive, bit of something.
Yeah.
Happy to get out of the comfort zone and do stuff that aren't necessarily set for life already. These are young people that want to do something, want to achieve something, and it's really transforming it. And that's the big thing that nobody tells you about buying a business. Yeah. And I don't care what anybody says, if you will really struggle to find a business that you can acquire that has those people with that growth and ambition inbuilt on the day you buy it. Because if it was there, they wouldn't be selling it.
Yeah. How have you dealt with that, Andrew? Because I know myself from buying, I've bought quite a few businesses now, and it's it's an unsettling time for the people involved in the business, but it's also an unsettling time for you as the buyer, because there's so much uncertainty and so many things, so much doubt in the back of your mind that you think could go wrong. You then couple it with the fact that geographically you're not there. So you're going in, you've bought Halo, and then you've said, you've created by design a higher turnover in staff to bring your own people in, which has obviously had a great result. But that period of everyone's so unsettled anyway, and then you're coming in and making major changes to staffing. How have you dealt with that from a control perspective?
It was Halo was the learning. It was a big learning point because it was our first, and with Halo we didn't want to rock the boat to start with. We thought we would accommodate everybody. We promoted from within. We've kept Kate, who we've promoted to practice manager. She predates us by a long time, and we wanted to. Our approach with Halo was arms cuddles for everybody, keep everybody on board, try and get them engaged. and it didn't work. That's the top and bottom of it. And that's why, so we did a lot of learning with Halo. Because we were really worried about, and when you buy a business, you go in and you might as well have a big red sign on your head saying you could get fired today.
100%.
And everybody shit themselves. Yeah. So we didn't want any of that. So we tried to do it a holistic way and bring them on. Turns out it's just not the way you have to do it. You know, give them a chance, give everybody a chance. But you've got in hindsight, I look at what's called a skill will matrix. And every member of staff, they probably don't know that I do this, but they'll find out if they listen to this. But with every member of staff we've got, I have a little graph. And on the bottom, it's got will. And on the y-axis, it's got skill. So you get people, young, driven apprentices who have no skill. They're low down on this one, but lots of will. Mm-hmm. And then you get the old people that have been there for a long time that have got really high skill, but no will to do it. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that you shift everybody to the top right of that chart by increasing their skill, which they can learn, and increasing their motivation or their will. And you try and move everybody to the top right of the chart. And I do it for every member of staff. Yeah. If you've got people low skill and low will, they need to go. If you've got people high skill and low will, and you give them a chance and their will doesn't move, they've got to go. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's worth having something like that. And every business owner will know, and every manager will have in their head exactly what I'm talking about. You'll be able to look at every member of staff and say, I know where you are on that chart. Mm-hmm. Monitor it. Do it when you first go in. Give them a few months and see if it moves. Yeah. If it doesn't move, then how long are you going to keep trying until you actually do something about it?
I like that. It's good. I like that. Is it key to keep that management structure in place, though? You've obviously created, again, quite a high turnover of staff within the business, but you mentioned that the general manager, practice manager, she's remained. Mm-hmm. Has that been key?
Yeah. Kate is fantastic. We're supporting it. So she's not a practice manager. She was in charge of the admin team. So we've supported her. We've given her training. You know, we want to give it literally. If you there's a friend of mine that I sit next to at United called Danny Inman. Do you know?
Danny? Yeah.
And me and Danny were talking about this a while ago, and we were saying that when people come on board, they often say, "How much will you pay me?" And that's not the question to ask. The question to ask is, how much can I earn? Two very different questions that evoke two very different responses from me. Yeah. You can earn whatever the fuck you want, is the answer. How much will I pay you is a very different answer to that. Mm-hmm. You get paid what the market tells you you're worth, fundamentally. And if you're not worth it, you ain't getting any more. Yeah. Be worth more to get more.
Exactly.
I forgot where I was going with that. The turnover of staff. So Kate, we've developed her. She's come on board. We want to give everybody a chance. And to be fair, some of the admin team have come with her. We've recruited additional people into the admin team, and she has been fundamental for us in stabilising Halo because everybody knows her. She's a familiar face, and she has everybody's best interests at heart. And she really pushes against myself and Philip when we want to implement a change. She has the voice of everybody and holds it up as a mirror to us, and really makes us think before we do anything. So that's really important.
To find balance, I guess, is because obviously Kate's giving you that continuity, but you also, when you buy a business, you buy it for a reason. You want to push it on and change. You want to make changes because what's the point in buying it otherwise? So you want she's giving you continuity, but there's almost a balance of we don't too many people hanging around because obviously the bad habits. There always are bad habits. Yeah. Will also continue. So it's really how easy have you found it to identify who to keep and who to let go?
With Halo, it took a while. In the in subsequent acquisitions, it's been easier because we've learnt the lessons. Yeah. And if that's nobody's a finished product. I'm in another 5 years, I'll be much better than I am now, and I'm a different person than I was 3 years ago. So it wasn't easy with Halo. It took a lot of believing in people and getting disappointed. So we learned some lessons there, and made some mistakes, no doubt about it with Halo. If I was buying another physiotherapy practice, would I have done it the same way? I absolutely wouldn't. I would have...
What's the biggest mistake you made, do you think?
Leaving it too long before enforcing our own changes. Trying to persuade other people to change because we didn't want to upset anybody, because we thought it would risk either key members of staff leaving, which would reduce the business's revenue, or reputationally, because it's a small place, people getting disgruntled and giving a bad name or a bad impression to the surrounding population. Turns out, actually, that having gone through it with other businesses in a much more serious way, that makes no difference. If you get the right people in and provide a good service or a good product, that speaks a lot more loudly.
So you've learned your lessons from Halo. You've made a success of it. Where from there? What were you looking for specifically? And what was the business? You touched on it briefly. It was engineering business, you said.
I was looking at... I was looking at haulage companies and warehouses. Then we ended up with Halo. And then because we'd transacted at Halo, the solicitor that did the legals for us came to us and said, there's this company in Norwich. It's been sold, but it's fallen out of bed at the last minute because the buyer wouldn't personally guarantee the deferred consideration. And obviously in property, personal guarantees are quite common.
Yeah.
If you go on business buying courses, they tell you never to sign a personal guarantee. But ultimately, that will prevent you buying businesses.
Possible, yeah.
And so it fell out of bed. So he said to the owner, I know these two people, they transact, they're looking to grow. Do you want me to introduce you? So because we'd transacted, we ended up getting in touch with this person in Norwich, did the deal with him and bought the security business. And that's had its own challenges. We've learnt the lessons from Halo and made we were worried about a manager leaving in Halo, for example. In the security business, the MD left when I started looking through the books and scouring what was going in and coming out in the accounts. And we found out that, she'd had holidays that the business had paid for. She had a pet dog that the business had paid for, jewellery. And as soon as she learnt that we were looking through the books with a fine tooth comb, post-acquisition, it's stuff that wasn't in the due diligence, she handed a notice in. So then you've got to find an MD. So best thing that ever happened to us, because we ended up finding a lady called Leanne, who had, as luck would have it, just been made redundant after taking Wex, which is a camera type of firm. They make the hardware and sell it. Yeah. She got on board at Wex when it was doing about £1 million, and she got made redundant when it got bought out and they were doing 30 million, and she took that journey. She was responsible for it. Right. That's fucking
decent
brilliant.
CV.
Decent CV, just what I'm looking for. Thank you very much. Yeah. So Leanne came on board, and it's a bit of a different business now. We've got the right leader, got rid of the rest of the team we had someone called Floor Time, who, this is Norwich for you. In the middle of the afternoon, if she'd had a dodgy phone call or she had to sit on the floor, lie down on the floor for an hour, and she wouldn't talk to anybody in the office, in the middle of the office. Right. And they called her Floor Time.
Right.
So she went.
I should hope so, yeah.
But these are when you buy a business, you can't. This is not the stuff you can find out in due diligence.
Tell you that,
no, exactly. No. Anyway, so that business is fantastic, and it's a few steps in front. Even though it was the second business we bought, it's a few steps ahead of where Halo is, because finding specific roles in Halo has been really challenging because the people aren't out there. So yesterday we have just signed on a podiatrist. That's foot health and manufacturing insoles and things like that. It's a vital pillar of our growth strategy, but it's took us 18 months to find a podiatrist. Right. That's how long it's took. So it's finding the staff that's held Halo back. Yeah. Whereas in the security world, they're a bit more freely available.
Will you look at any type of industry then?
Not now. At the time, I did. So the goal is that we will be buying more health businesses, more security-based firms, and the goal is to roll them both up so that we could sell either, should we want to, for 8 figures. That's the goal.
So your love of the security business, that has just purely come from purchase of them?
Yeah, I knew nothing about security before.
Okay.
Now I know a little bit more, but I still don't know very much.
So when you were presented with that business, the Norwich business, by the solicitor, what were the main metrics that you were looking at? How did you decide yes or no on that business?
Recurring revenue, turnover level, management team, customers that they had, and contracted revenue that was coming in. Those were the main things that we looked at. So,
And the valuation? Was it EBITDA?
it was no.
Or was it just
doesn't really.
the owner
work
wants
like
this?
that. Yeah,
Are you willing to pay it type of thing?
Yeah. So businesses, this EBITDA multiple bollocks doesn't really apply in my book, in my opinion, until you're starting to get over £1 million worth of EBITDA. And if you're less than that, it's what will somebody pay for it, because it is so risky.
Yeah.
So you can speak to the man down the pub who says, oh, it should be worth a 3 times multiple, all you like, but actually the risk is massive.
Yeah.
So it's what somebody is willing to pay for it.
Yeah. And how did that negotiation? Did you negotiate further with the Norwich owner? Yeah. So how did that go?
It was tricky because they always are tricky with owners. Because an owner, there's something called the endowment effect, where if you own something, if I own this was mine, my mother had given me this, and you wanted to buy it from me, I would say it's worth 50 quid. Well, but you can buy a pack of these for £5. So why is mine worth 50 quid? It's worth 50 quid because it's mine.
Yeah.
It's got value to me. And that's the endowment effect. And that's the same with business owners.
100%.
So they think that their life's work is worth more than actually it is. It's worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And how do you decide what you're willing to pay for it? A lot of it is how much do you put down up front? What's the profitability? Can you realistically expect that it will make a certain amount of money that reduces your risk? And it's a personal calculation you've got to make. How much risk am I willing to take? But ultimately, there is massive risk in buying small businesses, huge risk in small business acquisition. When we bought SSY, which is now Hawthorne, we've rebranded it, there was £200,000 on the debtor book. Why was there 200 grand on the debtor book? Because the fucking people wouldn't pay their invoices. So if people aren't paying their invoices, how are you paying your staff? It's all right saying, oh, you can leverage the debtor book no, you can't quite often. It depends on what type of debt it is and who it's with and all the rest of it. So that's a red flag to most people, or it should be. If you've got high debtors, it means you will be paying out of your own pocket your staff's wages very often, unless you do something about it. So people don't see that.
And that needs to be factored into the valuation, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
When you sat around the table.
Yeah.
So with the due diligence process, so obviously for people that haven't bought businesses, Andrew, do you want to take us through a summary of the process? You found a business that you want to buy. What are the major steps that you go through?
So identifying the right business is tricky. Usually you should have some options, because it's quite easy to find people wanting to sell. The difficulty is finding the right business and the right person who's willing to do it in a way that meets your personal needs. So you find a business. Usually there is some sort of information. You probably have to sign an NDA to get it. You might have a little bit of anonymous stuff to start with. Then you sign an NDA, and then you'll get given stuff. You tend to only get given what you ask for. So word to the wise, ask for lots of stuff. So I always ask for last 12 months bank statements for every account that the business has, VAT returns to ensure that there's no VAT liability, copy of the debtor book, copy of the invoices and terms and conditions, so you can see PAYE, and wage roll, payroll. So those are the minimum requirements that I ask for. And that's important because when you look at bank statements, you can actually see the narrative of the cash flow. So you can see, because in a security business, you wouldn't think that there would be any seasonality to it. You'd think that the revenue would be pretty flat all year round, but actually, you tend to get a dry spell around the end of the financial year when people are waiting for the new financial year to start doing stuff.
Right, okay.
So you do see seasonality.
I suppose, yeah, if your security's on major construction sites or whatever, yeah.
So unless you'd gone into stuff, that you will find stuff that you are unaware of, and you'll see patterns. And that's important because that if you've got other stuff happening, that you've got other cash flow requirements elsewhere in whatever you're doing, you need to make sure that you can be covered. The debtor book is really important because, what's your average debtor days? Are the usual suspects? All that stuff. And then, so you get through all that, and then you'll start to talk about the actual business itself and who the key customers are, and et cetera, et cetera. Once you've kind of satisfied yourself on what you're doing, I then usually go and meet the owner to see if we get on, because that's quite important. Yeah. Have a discussion about the business, the history, where he thinks or she thinks the weak points are, where they think that the opportunities lie. See if that marries to your own due diligence, and then it's time to start talking turkey with the trimmings. What do you want for it? Okay, everybody wants £1 million. Every business owner wants £1 million. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Everyone. Well, okay, if you want £1 million, how do you want it? I want it all on day one. Of course you do.
Yeah. Of course you do.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
You brought me checkbook.
Yeah. Well, let's be more realistic. This is not how it works typically. Typically, it's done with an initial consideration and then a deferred element. And then you discuss the terms and, the contractual requirements. And eventually you might get to, they'll go off and speak to the accountant or somebody else, and you'll go off and speak to your business partner or whatever. And eventually you get to a point where there's a deal to do. You then write it all down and sign heads of terms, and then you go to a solicitor and you hand over a big bag of cash, and a solicitor then goes through all their due diligence and sets up kind of data rooms and all the rest of it, and all the information and legal requirements and compliance and everything gets stuck into a big file that you all go through, and then the two solicitors then start talking about the APA or the SPA or asset purchase agreement or the share purchase agreement, ratifying it, talking through warranties and all the rest of it, and then eventually it gets spit out the other end. You get to a date, you arrange your finance if you're getting any, you sign on the line, and then you walk in as the proud owners of the new business.
Sounds easy.
Yeah.
A lot of moving parts there, though. And I was just thinking, I've just bought my fifth agency. I've only bought agents at other estate agency, letting agencies.
Cool.
So it's all in one pot. But every time I first get around the table with the owner, and I talk about deferred payments and warranties and stuff like that, they think I'm pulling the wool over their eyes, and then they go. The conversation ends not negatively, but I'd say neutral. They then go away, do their due diligence, speak to the accountant, speak to the solicitor, realise it's not what I'm presenting is the normal way of doing it. And then they come back a lot more open the next conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't trying to take the piss out of me. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
Have you found the same?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I usually kind of address that objection before they get to it. And I will say something like, the vast majority of business owners have never sold a business.
Yeah.
So this will feel strange to you, and you may have, quite rightly, a lot of cynical thoughts about what I'm going to say. So I'm going to give you the name of a couple of solicitors that I've never worked for, but I know they're good, that you can, if you can speak to them yourselves or speak to your own, but just so you know I'm up front, go and speak to these people and ask them about warranties, deferred consideration, X, Y, and Z. I will normally do that before we meet.
Yeah.
If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. But a lot of people just like the fact that you're being upfront, and that kind of gives you some kind of credibility. Yeah. Because it is a bit of a snaky world out there, and there are a lot of business owners that are snaky people, and they think, well, I would treat somebody like that, so why aren't they treating me?
Yeah, judged by your own standards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're upfront about it, then it immediately disarms them a little bit.
Yeah. Interesting that you did. One comment you made previously was you go and meet the owner, see if you get on with them, because that's very important. Why is that so important?
Well, you can't do business and get favourable terms with somebody if you're butting heads.
I think for people who haven't bought businesses before, it all sounds very transactional when you haven't been through it yourself. So, so to touch on that relationship,
Yeah, it's massive. And don't get me wrong, some relationships then get strained afterwards.
yeah,
Because some people don't do what they say they're going to do, you know, and that's certainly an experience that I've had. But some people, if people do what they say they will do and you do what you say you will do, then the relationship can be fantastic, which is exactly how it is, for example, at Halo. They wanted to keep working with us. We want to keep them working. We've done exactly what we've said. They're very happy, and it's a fantastic relationship. And they actually then refer other people to us. Can you speak to this person about that? You know, and who knows where it goes?
Yeah.
But you can't possibly, unless it's a hostile takeover, which is not the arena that 99% of people are in massive business. If you're looking at a business sub 5 million turnover, it's a relationship thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be smarmy and don't have to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. Just be upfront and honest and a nice person. If they don't reciprocate that, that's a warning to you. Don't proceed, because you could get your pants pulled down as well.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you're in negotiations with these people, you know, they've been very successful a lot of the time in their own businesses. You know, they consider themselves very experienced, very knowledgeable. And then when they start going through the process of selling their business, they're starting from zero, because like you said, they're very experienced business people, but they've probably never sold a business before, like you said. So it's difficult to sort of manage that relationship, I found, because you almost feel patronising talking them through how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they're sat there thinking, well, who are you talking to? I've been running this business for 25 years.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not a business thing.
How do you deal with that then?
Same as you. I just get on with them. I find common ground. I'm a people person anyway, and you just get them on side. I quickly try to make them realise that, you know, I'm not a con man. I'm not a snake, as you said it, and you know, I'm very transparent. You know, speak to other. I'm at the stage now where I can say, speak to this guy. I've just bought his business. Ask him.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Yeah.
Because all mine are in the same industry. That helps. And the same for you. I know you're in different industries, but you can, they can still get references.
Yeah.
From previous business owners that have sold. So
yeah, I used to find in coming back to the transferable skills from medicine, quite often I would get patients in who were doctors, and I would have to give them a diagnosis or break bad news to them. And I felt very much the same. You know, how can I explain this to these people? But they're on the other side of the fence now. They are patients rather than the doctor.
Yeah.
And I learnt to say, I know you're very knowledgeable in this. How would you like me to explain this to you so that it doesn't feel like I'm patronising?
Yeah.
And I've used that same phrase
right.
with people when I'm buying their businesses or trying to buy it. You know, I know you're experienced. It's your business. How would you like me to communicate so it doesn't look like I'm being patronising to you and explain this?
That's a good way of doing it.
And then it prevents any of that.
Yeah. So from then, Andrew, you know, that business was brought to you by the solicitor. You're right place, right time, by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
How have you gone on to source further businesses from there?
We've had quite a lot, actually, of false starts in all sorts of shapes and sizes. The next business that came along was a hotel in Seaton Carew.
Another one.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. The norm.
A colleague of mine stayed in it about 25 years ago, and she tells me the story all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was a shithole.
Yes, she said it was.
Yeah, it's not now.
No, I know. It looks. You can just tell from the outside it's a lot better now. It looks lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So that came about because the owner had been watching me on social media for years, and never said anything. And I knew who he was because he had a huge portfolio of property in Teesside. So it's a small world, isn't it? We all know who the big players are typically. So I knew who he was, but I'd never spoke to him. And I started getting these random messages on Facebook. He'd send me a message. Do you do social housing? No, I fucking don't.
Not hi, how are we doing, Andrew?
No, I don't. Oh, okay. Oh, I've got some good connections with social housing. Right, okay. Another month goes past. Are you sure you don't do social housing? No, I definitely don't do social housing. But it's lovely to speak to you.
Yeah.
Another couple of months. I'm selling my hotel. Will you come and talk to me? Yes. So that was what it was all along.
Right,
So eventually I went.
He was trying to break the ice.
Yeah, trying to break
right.
the ice. So I went and met him and sat with him, and bless his cotton socks, he was in a big hole. Typical kind of buy-to-let landlord, had an awful lot of buy-to-lets in his own name. I'm talking 100, 200 buy-to-lets in his own name. And it was his family business. He'd had some real issues with Section 21 or whatever, and all the tax that was happening with that. His brother and his dad died in very quick succession, and they basically, from what I can gather, kind of looked after the finance elements.
Right.
And this chap was the one that went out and found the deals, and he's very good at it. I love him to bits. Talk about relationships.
Yeah.
I'm going to see him on Friday. He's fantastic. I love the bloke. And so he put his head in the sand, and it all went to shit. Next thing you know, interest rates rise. They're all on standard variable rates. There's no money in the portfolio. It's not cash flowing. In fact, it's negative. It's underwater. No money to do any repairs. Houses fall out of into disrepair. No tenant in them. So slowly but surely, all the tenants disappear. He gets lots of voids. No money to do anything. Losing money hand over fist, like tens of thousands of pounds a month across his portfolio. And he had the hotel that was unencumbered. And so he also had next door on a lease option. And he thought, right, there's a lot of equity in next door, and I've got the hotel that's unencumbered. I'll put a bridging loan on the hotel to exercise the lease option on the huge house next door.
Right.
Put the bridging loan on it. God knows who would. Well, I know exactly who the lender was, and if you knew the scruples of this particular lender, you'd understand. But nobody else would touch it when the guy's in a position like this.
Yeah.
But they touched it because they wanted the asset fundamentally, right. And he got the bridging loan into his bank account, and because his outgoings and all the rest of it disappeared into the ether, all the money. And so now he's got a hotel with a bridging loan against it, and he still can't exercise the option on the property next door, but it's got a lot of equity in, and he's got less money and less security than he did have.
Yeah.
So now we're in a situation where the hotel's going to get repossessed, and the option is coming to an end on the property next door.
Oh dear.
And he's hemorrhaging cash. So he came to me and said, "Can you help?" So I did. And we did an asset purchase. I don't think
Just the hotel, or was it part of his other parts of his portfolio included?
Those were separate.
Right.
So this particular deal was the hotel. So we did an asset purchase on the hotel. I'll tell you the deal, because it's one of these that you won't do many of in your life. So he gifted me the equity, or he gifted myself and my business partner, gifted us the equity, so that we then bridged the rest. And at the same time, we got a bridging loan over the house next door at the option price. So we acquired approximately 1.5 million quid's worth of property.
Beautiful houses then as well, yeah.
And our total costs to acquire was £16,000.
Nice.
So you don't get many deals like that.
No, definitely not. I wish you did.
Yeah. Now, most people would have said, "You're done and dusted there. I've got this asset away that's not going to get repossessed."
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a little bit of margin in equity between the gifted equity and the bridge, so he got a bit from that. and he got some from the option that was exercised. So a lot of people would have said, I've helped you out overhaul there. Thanks very much. That's a fair deal. Not me, because I think that's a shady thing to do. So I came up with an agreement on the side where I'm agreeing to pay the equity that was in the hotel that he gifted me. I'm giving him that over a period of time.
Oh, well.
Because it's the right thing to do. And rather than giving it him as a lump, which isn't fair to me, considering I was helping him out, and it probably isn't the best for him.
Just want to say that.
Because it will disappear.
Yeah.
He's getting it in other ways that is more amenable to his situation.
Love that.
So, yeah, and naturally, we've got a fantastic relationship.
I love that. Well done.
Yeah, it's a cracker. It really
not
is.
Many people would do that.
Yeah. But that just shows you that doing the right thing and talking about it on social media all the time, people notice. They might never even like anything.
No, that was my next question. How powerful is social? Because you're very consistent, especially on LinkedIn. I've noticed. How powerful has social media been for you? I mean, I know how powerful it's been for me, and it's just. I'll be honest with you. I hate being in front of a camera. I don't think it's natural to anyone. Don't know how you feel about that, but it's such a no-brainer.
Yeah,
it's free.
Yeah,
like you put yourself out to the world and showcase your businesses and your services for free.
Yeah,
and anybody that isn't doing it is mental. So have you had more success? Because obviously that deal came to you through social media. Have you had others that have?
Yeah, it's social media's changed my life. If I'm honest, everything up until everything that I've done in my life has come out of social media. Let's put it like it's massive. So when I started, right, this is not me. This talking about myself is not me naturally. When I started this journey in inverted commas, I had 23 friends on Facebook, and I was proud of that. And I thought, this fucking Facebook bollocks, right? But then I read one of Grant Cardone's books. If nobody knows you, nobody flows you.
Yeah. Sell or be sold.
Something like that. Yeah. And I read a lot of books, and it was one of them. And then I read Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes.
So one after the other, and I thought, I've got to get out of my own way. I've got to do something. So I started posting, and then slowly, I don't know how many followers I've got. I don't take any notice really. And then I thought, right at the beginning, how can I? Because I was looking at the people around Teesside property back before I even had my little buy-to-let in Darlington, and I need to get out, right? I have to get out of medicine. How can I speed up that process? Well, I've got nothing to offer anybody. I'm looking at, the big players in Teesside. We all know who they are. How can I get these people to help me? I've got nothing to offer them. And, you can talk to them, and it's just another one that's, another somebody that wants to get into property. So I started my podcast.
Right.
And I thought, everybody's got an ego. I'll invite them on, because at least then it gives them a way I'm offering them something, and I've got this one-to-one time. From that and sharing on social media, everything has come off that. I've had millions of pounds worth of angel investment that have come out of my social media. I've had millions of pounds worth of property that have come off my podcast and my social media. My business partner, Philip, came out of my podcast because I interviewed him. I met him at a networking event, and then I interviewed him for my podcast, and we've remained firm friends ever since. And then if it hadn't been for me and Philip, I'd got to the point where I was getting out of medicine, but the stuff that we have done in the last 2 or 3 years is ridiculous. Like the business acquisitions, 40 to 60 properties a year, all this stuff that we do all the time, constantly, has happened since I started working with Philip. And it's all because I started off doing some social media and just kept up with it, and then the podcast.
Well, I don't think there's a better example of anyone I've had on that for what you've just put into a nutshell there, because that is life-changing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's changed my life. Yeah. It absolutely has. And you'll get, you don't know who listens. Podcasts are strange things, right? So I don't know what your listenership is, but mine's not massive. When I'm consistent with my episodes, I might get 1,000 unique listeners a month. It's not a massive amount, into podcast circles. That's nout.
I didn't realise how popular this podcast was.
Right.
I mean, I could see the numbers growing, which I was very proud of, but then I didn't realise how popular it was until I stopped. I had like a 4 to 5 month break at the end of last year because I was on holiday and I bought a big commercial building that was a nightmare. Anyway, and the amount of messages I was getting on socials, when's the next podcast?
Really?
Where are you? Are you all right? It was amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I was in two minds whether to keep going with it. I knew I would have ultimately, but the amount of messages I was getting, I thought I have to start it up again.
Yeah, they're brilliant. And you don't need many. Like, you do not need 1 million followers.
No.
You just need a couple that are really bought into what you're doing.
Yeah.
And with a podcast, you're in people's. What they say, that you need 7 touch points before somebody will transact with you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in someone's ear, well, they're walking their dog every week.
Exactly.
For months and months on end.
Yeah.
They trust you.
100%.
And the number of people, like the investors that have come out of the woodwork, don't even know who they are, but they've listened to every episode of, from back when. They know all about me.
Yeah.
And like, you'll go and do a talk in London and they'll come up to you, I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did a talk in Carlisle last week, and there was 3 young lads there who were probably listening to this. They were brilliant young lads, doing very, very well at property, and they knew everything about me. It was bizarre.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was good. And if it's know, like, and trust, isn't it? So if someone's been, like you just said, this is episode 44, so I've had 44 touch points with people. So when I come to do business with someone, or they're offering me a bit of land or a building, just the fact that they feel like they know, like, and trust me already puts me way ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
And it's such a cost-effective way of doing things. So that's I didn't realise how powerful your social media has been. But
and do you know what? I just every morning when I'm having a shit, that's when I do my post.
Do you really?
Yeah, that's
great. It's not just don't do a live.
No, but that's it. How do you, my business partner, Philip, how do you remain so consistent all the time? Yeah, that's it. What else am I going to do when I'm sat there?
Well, you
know, so that is it.
Because you've created routine by doing that, yeah.
Yeah, so next time, just imagine me curling one out.
I will, yeah. I mean, I'll try not to. But I do know, when I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll think, Andrew will be doing his content. But whatever works for you, mate. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so as regards to doing business deals and doing property deals, what are the similarities and which do you prefer?
The similarities, there's a lot of similarities. So I would say 90% of the properties that I've bought since my first one have had some element of creativity. I can only think of one that I bought on a mortgage since. That was a deposit and a mortgage.
Oh, right, okay.
Every other house, and we've got a pretty decent sized portfolio now in triple digit numbers. Every other one has had some sort of creativity, whether it's exchange delay completion, lease option, completion with deferred consideration, whether it's been bridged, vendor finance, whatever. Everyone has had something. Mm-hmm. So those techniques are very similar in lots of ways, and probably originate from acquiring businesses, or one way or the other. They're similar, and doing relationships like that is similar. They differ in that I think with business that you've got this kind of lottery ticket effect of businesses. So buy a HMO, do a BRRRR and a HMO, sui generis, and start cash flowing a couple of grand a month. Thanks very much. It's a nice property deal. Buy a business in a particular sector. You've got an opportunity to either get approached or to approach a company that needs some work doing for a tender, for example. I'll give you an example of an illustration of what I'm looking at. So our security company, we got asked to do some work for a business that builds data centers. Because we put on the CCTV cameras, the access control, iris entry into buildings, fingerprint scanners, all the specialist fire stuff that's in them and all the rest of it. that one job that we've priced up this year, we should find out next month, is £3.6 million worth of work. You can't get that on a property deal. And it's not our typical job, even though that's where I want the business to get to. I want us to be in that field. Hopefully, if we get it, that's proof of concept, and then we'd get more of them. But we haven't got it yet. And we might not get it, but we've got a chance of getting it because we were sought out and asked to provide the quote for it, right? Now, our customers at the security business are Del Monte, Porsche, blue chip companies. So that's one of the reasons I bought it, because of its heritage and the companies it works with. And because of that, you've then got the people come to you with stuff like this. Now, probably won't get it, but we've got more chance of getting it than I have of winning the lottery with a lottery ticket, because there's only a few of us in, and the job's happening. Yeah. Someone's got to get it. Yeah. So the risks and rewards are phenomenal in business. They are much, much, much smaller, but still very real in property. So I always say property is like business with armbands on. People, you can still get properly fucked in property. But it's a lot easier to get properly fucked in business. Yeah. But once you learn what you're doing and you start mitigating those things, the rewards can be absolutely stratospheric in comparison to property.
Yeah, almost infinite. Well, they are infinite in business, aren't they? Yeah, you're right. Very risky. They do the amount of due diligence that you surely do. Like, you're covering your ass as much as you can, but ultimately there could be skeletons in the cupboard further down the line. So, but the flip side of that is the rewards. If you buy the right business and identify, which I'm sure you do very, very quickly, where it can be improved and where you can, it's almost day one income, day one increase in profit, isn't it? So I think you need both. Well, I personally like both. I like the security of property. It's a slow burner, but I quite like that. And then the business is so your slow money is your property and your fast money is your business. And
are you a James Sinclair fan?
I'm a massive James Sinclair fan. Yeah.
Have you seen him on my podcast? Have you seen that episode?
No, I haven't actually. No.
Good lad, James.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I just listened to his podcast actually. I'll look up. I don't know you've mentioned it, but yeah, he's just he's brilliant. I just love the way he explains things. Yeah, very easy to understand. So
fast pans and slow pans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's right, isn't he? Yeah, he's an absolute legend. So yeah, I like both. So it sounds like you do as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. I don't get a choice. Philip cannot stop buying these fucking little grunters in Wales. Honest. Yeah. I think we did 27 buy-to-lets last year, and we still had 9 in legals by the end of the year that had been stuck. We've got a great one actually at the minute. We should be completing on next week or the week after. Block of flats in South Wales, 20 flats on one title. It's an old hotel that's been renovated. It's really quite nice. They're mainly one beds, a couple of 2 beds, valued up at 1.4 mil, and we're paying 790 grand for it. So we're getting a market value bridge against its vacant possession value, which more than covers the purchase price. And then we'll term it out. There's 3 flats, so there's 23 flats. So there's 3 that haven't been finished. So we'll finish those flats, get them rented, and then term it out onto a term product on a yield basis that should pay the bridge off and give us a few quid in our pockets.
I wouldn't be screaming too much at Philip then, if that's what he's busy doing.
That is what he's busy doing.
While you're finding businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Andrew, what's the end goal for you? Where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years?
Still doing this.
Yeah.
There's no end. So I spoke about this at Hard Hats to Heels the other week.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me that very question, and I said, "Have you heard of the gold medal syndrome? Have you heard of that?" And the gold medal syndrome is a psychological phenomenon that is seen in athletes, that they strive all their life to win the gold medal in whatever they compete in, and once they do it, they plunge into depression for years afterwards, because what's left?
Yeah.
They've achieved their life goal.
Purpose.
And I'm very one of the things that I've developed over the last kind of 10 years is every day I have an hour where for personal development religiously, whether it's reading a book or journaling or thought experiments or whatever it is. And And I spotted this gold medal thing, even when I was starting that house on Hercules Street, that if this works and I end up... So my original goal was to get out of medicine by 55. That was my goal. And I was 45 or 46 when I left. So I'd achieved my goal 10 years early. But I saw it coming, and I thought, so my goal is to get out of medicine. What's going to happen then? And along the journey, I'd done lots of creative property deals, and I really enjoyed that bit, the deal making, the relationship building, the talking to people, getting the thing over the line. And then you probably find this, you get to the deal done, and it's such an anticlimax.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's like, what's next? And so I really dwelled on it and thought about it, reflected on it, and realised that actually it's a very big cliche, but the journey is what it's about. It's not about the goal at the end. So my needs are met. You know, I really don't have a flash lifestyle. I drive a 14-year-old car. You know, I wear tracksuit bottoms, and you know, I've got the odd trinket that I've acquired along the way, but I don't. You know, I'm never in Dubai. That's not me. Do you know what I mean? I am who I am, and I don't apologise for that. I have a very simple life.
Neither should you.
So I don't need much. My needs are met. What I do need is a purpose, and the purpose is self-fulfilling, and that is that every Christmas I sit down and I think, what will make me uncomfortable this year? So one year it was, what will make me uncomfortable? Buying businesses, because shit kickers from council estates have no place buying businesses. So that's when I started on the business acquisition path, because I thought, how uncomfortable will that make me feel? Last year it was public speaking, because I go to networking events, but I would never do a talk because it would make me feel uncomfortable. And then last year I did about 10 or 15 talks because...
Now you're comfortable.
Yeah, to make me uncomfortable, because that's where the growth is. So it's just about that. That's what it's about. And so in another 10 or 15 years, God knows how many more challenges that I'll have got through, because there's been some fucking horrendous ones. But Danny always says to me, what's a big challenge today ends up being a daily thing that you just bat off 100%. The bigger you get.
100%.
It's wise words for such a young fella.
Yeah, he does give quite a lot of wise words, doesn't he? But I think you bang on. I think you bang on with that. You see so many people, not even business people that have just loved the job the whole lives, and then they retire with a big pension, and they just go to pieces because they've got no purpose. They've got no set time to be up in the morning and nothing to be up for. The kids have grown up and gone, and it's sad. You see people shrivel, and then unfortunately pass. But yeah, I think that purpose is key. I'm the same as you. I love the chase of the deal. I love doing the deal, but then when the deal's done, it's almost like a mild depression, isn't it? It's like, oh, okay, well, I've got that now. Yeah. So what's next? And I think that's just, as an entrepreneur, that's always the way you're going to be, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's not for everybody.
No.
It really isn't. And some of the scrapes and stuff that you end up getting yourself into, or things that are outside of your control, but you've just got to take ownership. And like there was one point, so I bought a bungalow to make into a disabled holiday let, and we were just getting it finished in a place called Carlton near Redmarshall. And just about 6 weeks from being finished, it got burnt down by arson. And the insurance came out and had a look, and they knew everything that was happening. It was fully insured. But then when they went and looked at, there was a flat roof extension out the back, which had always been there before we bought it. And when we took the roof down, the ceiling down, the timbers were rotten, so we just thought we'd replace the timbers. Got firebombed. Insurers came out, spotted that this had fresh timbers in at the back, and said, what's this? I said, well, it's just the timbers are rotten, so we just replaced the timbers on the existing structure. All right. Well, you didn't tell us about that, did you? Well, no, because it's just work.
Like for like.
Yeah, like for like. Yeah, well, because of that, we weren't fully aware of what we were insuring. So they refused to pay. Yeah. So, and it was on a bridging loan, and it was a big development. We took the roof off completely, added another floor, another story onto it. Like, it was massive, hundreds of thousands of pounds. And they wouldn't pay. So we thought, fucking hell, what are we going to do here? So we thought, right, we'll just try and rebuild it again, put some security on the site. Anyway, long story short, it got firebombed a further 3 times. So we ended up having to sell it. But so that was happening. And at the same time, I had an investor who had bought a house in a place called Norton. The investor paid for it, first charge. And the guy said, and it was a probate house, once you get your mortgage offer, let me know and I'll go and buy some property, because he was a property investor. He just parked it with me for a while, as some property investors do. You tell me and I'll go and buy a house. I said, yeah, fine, no problem. So we got the mortgage offer, told him, about 130 grand. He went off and committed to a HMO in Carlisle, I think, on a bridge, on an auction. So he says, right, okay, I've got, it was 56 days. I've got 56 days. So when you get your money through, I said, no problem. Got to the day of exchange, got to the day of completion to draw the mortgage funds down. And the lender solicitor said, yeah, we can't complete on this because when you first bought it, your solicitor gave assurances that all the probate paperwork was done, which is why you completed. But the probate paperwork wasn't done. So we can't complete. It's got to go back through probate. So I've got a bungalow that's burnt down on a bridging loan. I've got a business that I'm buying at the time. I had a business that I'm buying, so I needed to find a lot of money to get into that deal because it wasn't a no money down business acquisition. I've got an investor that needs 130 grand because he's put it down, and then I've got this property that's got to go back through probate. That was a bit of a stressful time.
Don't tell you these things when they're selling courses.
Do they fuck? No. But anyway, he got his money. We put the property into auction. The minute almost it went live on the auction, we got the auctioneer rang us and said, "Oh, we've got an offer at exactly the number that you said you wanted for it. If you take it off the auction straight away." So we said yes. Anyway, when it got burnt down, the police said it's likely to be travellers that burnt it. They see a site they like, and rather than pay full whack, they'll burn it down and buy it cheap.
Yeah.
I was like, no, surely not. Anyway, they kept burning it down. We sold it. On the day of completion, they turned up in a transit van, load of travelling men, and obviously it was them that had done it. But anyway, I had to do what I had to do to raise the money to pay my man back. All's well that ends well in the end, but that was so these are when you're doing a lot of stuff, you and it was what it was. If it had happened years ago, it would have been the end.
Would have finished,
but at the time we were big enough to absorb it.
Big enough and thick-skinned enough.
Yeah, man.
From the lessons, from the beatings that you take along the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, so no doubt there'll be more of them to come.
Oh, 100%. And you'll learn loads and you'll get over them and you'll get better and better.
Yeah.
As you go. Andrew, it's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for coming in. And I think for anyone looking to get started or increase the property portfolio or looking to get into buying businesses, I know we've just scratched the surface, but we'd need a 6-hour podcast
I think we would,
to go through everything. So thank you very much for coming on.